A reading from the book of Leviticus. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "If someone has on his skin a scab or pustule or blotch, which appears to be the sore of leprosy, he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of the priests among his descendants. If the man is leprous and unclean, the priest shall declare him unclean by the reason of the sore on his head. The one who bears the sore of leprosy shall keep his garments rent and his head bare, and shall muffle his beard. He shall cry out, 'Unclean, unclean.' As long as the sore is on him, he shall declare himself unclean, since he is in fact unclean. He shall dwell apart, making his abode outside the camp." The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm is number 665, Loving and Forgiving. Number 665.
A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. Brothers and sisters, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do everything for the glory of God. Avoid giving offense, whether to the Jews or Greeks or to the Church of God, just as I try to please everyone in every way, not seeking my own benefit, but that of the many, that they may be saved. Be imitators of me, as I am of Christ. The word of the Lord.
Alleluia, alleluia.
with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. A leper came to Jesus and kneeling down, begged him and said, "If you wish, you can make me clean." Moved with pity, he stretched out his hand, touched him, and said to him, "I do will it. Be made clean." The leprosy left him immediately, and he was made clean. Then, warning him sternly, he dismissed him at once. He said to him, "See that you tell no one anything, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer for your cleansing what Moses prescribed. That will be proof for them." The man went away and began to publicize the whole matter. He spread the report abroad, so that it was impossible for Jesus to enter a town openly. He remained outside the deserted places, and people kept coming to him from everywhere. The Gospel of the Lord.
I was young when I realized that my skin was rotting away. And I was sent away from home, and I was told I would have to wear a bell around my neck and constantly scream for others to stay away from me. I was made to feel like the scourge of the human race. The decay of my body was bad. The decay of my heart and soul was worse. It was a long, horrible day on the road, like any other, when I heard a clamor that overpowered my own screaming and the clanging of my bell. The man, supposedly the long-awaited one, was coming. Some said that he was the Messiah. So in the same way that I cried out for bread or a few tossed coins, I cried out for mercy and healing. It's hard to say if I screamed out of a real belief or just the off chance that the fanatical rumors were true. Most of me expected him to avoid me like everyone else, or to offer me some words dripping with sentiment and false hope, or toss me a few coins to cleanse himself of the guilt of being healthy while I was ostracized. I had no idea what to expect, as this was the first time that I had ever crossed paths with a Messiah. But he didn't hear me. So being a man who lived for the moment, who did not let an opportunity pass me by, I went right up to him because I had nothing to lose. I had already lost my health and my self-esteem. The worst he could do was avoid me like everybody else, but he did not avoid me. He looked at me with an acceptance and a love that I had never experienced. And then he touched me. He touched me, who had not been touched since I was a child. He touched me, and immediately, my skin was clear. Better than healed skin was a healed heart. All the emotional scars, all the self-hate, all the depression that I had lived with for decades were gone. I stood up, and with my healed limbs, I threw that bell as far as I could. And as I began to walk, I was taken aback by the silence, the joyful, peaceful silence. No bell, no clanging, not constantly hearing myself scream. And so I went to the priest to fulfill the second part of the Messiah's request. And I'll never forget the look on his face as the priest, the one who shunned me and shackled me, to that telltale bell, realized who I was. We stood in silence, and as I turned around, I laughed. I laughed for the first time since I was a boy. And then I lived for the moment. I made up for all of life that I was forced to miss, self-centered living, doing, seeing, and experiencing what satisfied me. As for the first part of his request, to keep my mouth shut, I told everybody. Funny, it never occurred to me that I did not see the Messiah again until the Passover. I guess I was so busy living my way of life the way I wanted to that I completely lost track of the one who gave me new life. So I came to the holy city, Jerusalem, to celebrate the Passover, something I was never before allowed to do. And it was there that I saw the same familiar face of the Messiah, branded as a criminal, hanging on a cross. At the cross was one of his disciples, whose name was John. And I asked him what happened, and John said that after Jesus healed me, and I told everybody what I was asked to keep to myself, I made it impossible for him to enter a town. That he had become the one who had to avoid people. The roles were reversed. So much of his flesh had been ripped from his body that he looked like the one who had leprosy. He didn't wear a bell, but rather a cross to declare his shame. He was the one who was screaming, not me. He was the one who people turned their eyes from, not me. The roles had definitely reversed. As I approached him, I was the one who regretted not having the authority to tell him to wash himself clean. I was the one who felt guilty for being healthy while he was dying. And as I approached him, I felt the same burning in my heart and the same healing of my skin that fateful day on the road. And then everything started to happen so quickly. As I walked toward him on legs that were healed by him, soldiers were bickering on whether or not to break his. People were jeering, others were wailing, priests were screaming something about invoking Elijah. So I thought, live for the moment. And I said, thank you. And after I said those words, Jesus died. And the Roman soldier said, surely this man is the Son of God. And I said to him, you're telling me. And since that Friday, I don't live for me. I don't live for the moment. I live for him.